So we are talking about JSON parsing and unit testing with test-driven development today. Earlier today, we saw test-driven development, we saw unit testing, we got introduced to the concept of testing our code. We'll see what that looks like along with parsing JSON data. So first off, let's go create an app. We'll create an app, we'll call it random user app. So create a single view application. We'll call it random user app. As this morning, we should have include unit test. Xcode keeps your last default, so you should still have it selected. So make sure to have include unit test here. Click next. Create.
What was it called?
Random user app. Random user app. Great. The first thing we need to do is go back to Postman. Let's go to Postman here. Keep in mind that Postman gives you an ability to create what's known as collections. I'll show you guys later how to create collections, but know that you could create a collection. So anytime that you add, for example, a new URL, anytime you add a new URL here, do we all see where it says save in our Postman? In Postman, do we all see where it says save? So I could click on save. Well, click on save as. Click on save as. Where it says request name, I could give it a name. I could call it, like, for example, get random users. Mine is called requesting multiple users. I could also create a collection. Do we see create collection? Do we see create collection? I could create a collection. If I create a collection, I could call my collection. For my example here, I think I'm calling this random users right here. I could call my collection random user generator. That's what the API is. So a year from now, 6 months from now, 2 weeks from now, keeping in mind that you need to log in. Log in, create an account in order for that to work for you. So it works very similar to like a browser. If I log into Google Chrome, right? I save my bookmarks. I could go to a different computer, log into Google Chrome, and get my bookmarks. Everybody with me? This is very similar to your Postman. Your Postman works as a browser. It's a browser, right? It browses for APIs. So I could save a collection, go to a different computer, log into my Postman, get back my collections. Everybody with me? So I'll get back my collections with my random user generator. I've come across a lot of APIs. Every API you come across, you probably want to save it somewhere. I have a movie database stuff. I have, right? You could just like have collections. My Yelp API has stuff in there. So create collections. That way you could navigate through APIs very easily and save your own endpoints. Everybody with me? And give them different names based on what you're looking for. For example, let me show you real quickly here, one more time. If I'm going to, for example, Apple here, if we take a look at Apple collection on my computer, I have an endpoint that gets me podcast. I call it podcast. It's an endpoint in my Apple Search API collection. It's called podcast. I have one movie search, right? So it's easier for you to navigate later. Everybody with me? So get in the habit of creating collections. Every time you use a new API, create a collection for it, put it in whatever collection folder that makes sense there. Okay? There's also a city bike API that's open, by the way, if you guys are interested in that. There's a lot of cool APIs there. Cool. But now we after our requesting multiple users. So first of all, go ahead and copy. Doesn't matter for now if your JSON data is not identical to mine. Doesn't really matter. But go ahead and copy your entire JSON response here. So copy the response, command copy, and let's go ahead and create. Go back to your project and create a new file So Command N, and we're navigating to empty, right? Other empty file, right, everybody? I copied the JSON from the Postman. I'm creating a new empty file. New empty file. We need to have local JSON because we haven't used URL session directly to query an API. So create a new file. My file name, what is it? It's randomusers.json. Make sure target is random user app and not random user app test. And make sure your group is selected here as random user app. Okay. When you're ready, press create. And go ahead and paste. Make sure you start pasting from line 1. From line 1, Command V. Command V from line number 1. Okay? Command V from line number 1. Okay, great. So we have JSON. Excellent. So let's go write a unit test. Our first test will be, can we get data? Can we get data from that particular file? That's all we're looking for. Can we get data? Can we read in that file, basically? Can we read in that file? That's our first test. So we'll go ahead and we'll go to our random user app test here. We'll go to our random user app test. Click on it. We'll remove those 2 stubs here. As a matter of fact, let's move the first 2 stubs. I will remind you what setup does. Setup, if we need any setup logic, we put it in, very similar to view did load. Any setup logic, I put it in my setup function. After my test runs, anything I want to reset, I put it in my teardown. Everybody? Okay? That's what those 2 functions do. All right, so let's start our test. I'll start a function. I'll call it test. Teardown at the end of every test, it gets called. So put teardown code here. This method is called after the invocation of each test method in the class. I like when Apple does stuff that's actually right on point here. So every test setup gets called. After every test is run, teardown gets called. If you want to reset an object, this is the place to do it. So what do we want to test? We want to test reading data from random user from random users file. Okay. We could have a long method name here. That's fine. It tells exactly what it does. Reading data from, nobody's calling this, so we don't really care. Reading data from random users file. This is what we want to test. Can we read data from that file? Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. So our random users, so we'll say remember in test-driven development, you write the test, as it fails, you go fix your production code. Everybody with me? All right, so, okay. All right, so here we'll say random, SUT. What's up? Random user data system on the test. We wrote that earlier. We could write it again here for sure. So SUT is system on the test. It's testing terminology. System on the test, right? Cool. So random user data. I want to get random user data. Actually, not random user data. Sorry. I want to say bundle dot parse JSON data. It's a function. It takes in a file name. So parse JSON file name. File name is a string. So file name is file name. We'll set that up later. Extension is an extension. So we'll set up our arrange here. Arrange, we'll say let file name. What's our file name? File name is random users. My extension is JSON. So here, this is going to be file name, and here, this is extension. Great. So here I say bundle, parse data, give it a file name. Okay, great. So at this point, following test development rules, right, we need to stop here because, first of all, bundle.parse JSON data. Bundle is the class we use to access resources in our app bundle. We spoke about that last week, right? Everything in my app bundle here, the bundle could access it. But bundle doesn't know about parse JSON data. That method here doesn't exist. If we see the error, what's the error say? Type bundle has no member parse JSON data. It doesn't exist, right? So we need to create it. So we need to stop, write in our unit test, and go create it. We'll create an extension on bundle that does this. So let's go ahead and create a new file. So create a new file, Command N. It's going to be a Swift file. Create a new file, Swift file. Click on Next. Our file name, wait for it, bundle plus extensions. That's just a convention here. Back in Objective-C days, right? So that here just says that this bundle file is a set of extensions. Later, you could say what the extensions are. If it's a group of related extensions, you could give it a name. For example, when we start extending our view controller, we could say view controller plus alerts. So everything in that extension will be alerts, right? But for now, bundle plus extensions. Okay, we're about to extend the bundle class. Press create. We're still in the random user app. We're not in the test. We're not creating. I don't think we're creating a unit test class today. We're just using the one that came in with the project. Okay, so here we want to extend bundles. So we start off with extension. I want to extend bundle. I think this is the first time we're actually extending something outside of the view controller, right? Before we just extended the view controller to conform to something else, right? But now this is the first time we're actually seeing extending a type. I could extend any type. Everybody with me? I could extend bundle to include a function that I wrote myself, which is what we're doing. I'll extend bundle to include our parse data function. Everybody with me? Okay? Let's go back to our bundle class. Okay, so we have a function here. The function is called on the type itself. The function is called on the type itself. What type of function is that? Static function, right? Or type method, right? But we need to have the static keyword here. Keep in mind that you could have, if it's a class, you can have class as opposed to static. But with a struct, it has to be static. Everybody with me? So 1 second. So if I say static function, my method name, like this, I could say class here. It's a class method. With a class, I could say class instead of a static. It's the same thing. With a struct, you can't say class because a struct is not a reference type. And you can say class on a struct anyway. Okay? Just keep that in mind. But you'll more likely see static here throughout your code. Okay, so static func parse data, parse JSON data. What does it take? It takes a file name, which is a string, and it takes an extension, which is also a string. At this point, I'll build. Our function should return data. I don't think we have it returning anything in our test. Actually, it does. It should imply like it returns something. So our function is not done. We need to return some data type. Yes. Okay, so here we want to return data. So let's go ahead and return data. What bundle is? Bundle is the class iOS gives us to access resources in the app itself. So if I want to access an image or an MP3 file, any resource I want to access, I could go either using the file manager or I could use the bundle class. Cool? All right, so here, let's keep going. So now we need to complete our function. Let's complete our function, and then we'll go test it out. So our function, we have a guard statement because data, the URL could be nil, right? So here we have file URL, and we use bundle.main.url, URL for resource. So bundle.main is a singleton. We'll talk about singletons next week. Bundle.main.url, URL for resource with extension, right? So this option here, for resource with extension. So the resource, I'll pass in my file name. Extension, I pass an extension. Else. We do not find it. Here we could crash the app here because something went wrong on our part. Either we did not include the file name, something went wrong, maybe the name is wrong, whatever it is, it throws an error here, it crashes the app. So here we'll simply say resource not found, resource with file name, not found. Okay, great. So at this point, we have the URL. We'll use the URL to get data. So here we say let data equal to data.contents of URL. We have the file URL. And remember, we need to try. This could throw an error. And we'll wrap this entire line in a do catch. So do catch. Remember, we're doing a piece of action here. We're doing code number 23 here. So I'll grab line 23. I'll put it in my do here. Right? So we execute line 19. It could throw an error. If it does throw an error, we catch the error here. A potential error, contents not found, error. And we have an implicit error here we could use to say what went wrong. We want to know what went wrong. And for my data, I'll simply create a data object. Data object, I'll implicitly unwrap it, and I'll pass it here, and I'll return data here. Return data. At this point, we have enough to continue our test. let us write, but we have enough to continue our test, right? We wrote enough code just to keep writing the test. So now we have a function, it returns data, so now we could go and test, go continue writing the test. Yes, Mel. Okay, so yeah. So last week we started talking about do catch because we started parsing JSON, right? So the do here, I do a block of code. I do line 18, right? I do line 18, right? I need to mark it as a try, that line of code. I'm trying to execute a line of code that could potentially throw an error. This particular function here, contents of, it could potentially throw an error. What does that mean? Something could go wrong, right? At that URL, that particular file might not exist, or the contents might not exist. So it throws an error. The person who wrote the method wrote it such that the function throws an error. If it throws an error, you have to mark it as a try. Right? You're trying to execute a piece of function. If it throws an error, where does the error go? It goes in the catch block. Right? That's why we're able to say print error here. Okay? And the entire thing, we wrap it in a do catch. Do the block of code you expect to execute, mark that method as a try, catch any potential errors in the catch block. We write our own throwing methods at some point, right? When we handle like network errors or whatever it is, we write our own throwing methods. But know that if a method is throwing, you need to mark it as a try. You need to mark it with a try. You're welcome. Reading from random users. It's reading, it's just getting us back data. It's reading JSON, it gets us back data. That's all it does. So it reads in parse JSON data. It shouldn't be parse JSON data. Well, that's fine actually. Not really. It should be like reading JSON, reading in file or something. We'll refactor the name. Let's refactor the name actually. Let's call it convert JSON to data. Is that a difference? Convert data, convert JSON to data. Parse JSON data. Parse JSON data is fine actually. Because that's what it does. It takes JSON, it gives us back data. This is fine. Okay? It takes the JSON object we have in the file, it reads it, it gives us back data. That's what it does. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Let's go to the test. Did everybody finish writing the extension? Okay? Again, this is an extension on bundle. Now, anywhere I could say bundle.parse JSON data. Anywhere in my code base that has access to this extension, I could pretty much say bundle.parse JSON data is going to work. You just give it an extent, you give it the file name, you give it the extension, it gets you back data. Everybody with me? So instead of doing this like 3 different places, I could just have it as an extension throughout my program. Okay? Anytime you catch yourself doing some functionality on a type multiple places, take a step back, make an extension for it. Okay? We'll come across that many times. It could be date, it could be string, it could be int, anything. Yes, sir?
So what's the bundle?
The bundle in our circumstance gives us access. Well, in our circumstance, we'll make an extension on bundle. So when we say bundle dot parse JSON, that's what it does. The bundle here, we extended bundle. So we'll be able to say, in our test, we could say bundle dot parse JSON. And give it the arguments. And it will get us back JSON data. It will get us back data, raw data. Right? In the case that we're using it here, it's on bundle itself with the singleton, reads the resource, right? Okay, cool. Let's go to our test and build. Julia, question? At this point, if you build, there should be no more errors. There should be a warning, which is fine, but we should have no errors, correct? Everybody, in my test? If anything, maybe you misspelled something, that's okay. Just go back and type in parse JSON data and let it autocomplete for you. Yes, sir? The bundle extension, sure. Just build. Xcode might not have caught your change. Do a command B. Was everybody able to build the test and not get an error? Mel, what is your warning or error? Sorry. Is there an error? How are we doing? Can we get out of bundle? How are we doing? Cassandra? Good? Okay. Mr. Bienvenido, can we continue? Okay. So let's go to the test here. And as I said before, this should just give us a warning now because now it exists. That function exists on bundle. Everybody? I was able to extend a bundle. That's what we did there. We took a type, we extended the type, we added a function on that type. Everybody with me? So today we actually saw how we could extend our own types. We've been doing it in view controllers, but the same view controller, but now we have a separate file with the bundle extension. Okay, great. So what do we get back here? This is good. This is not that. This is data here. And let's write our assert now. Okay, we'll see a new assert. Because this morning we only saw assert xct assert equal, right? We'll see a different assert now. Let's see what that looks like. So xct assert not nil. So we want to make sure that the data is not nil. That's all what we're looking for. Do we have bytes? That's all we care about. Do we have valid bytes here? Data is a bytes structure. It just gives you raw bytes. Do we have bytes? So what are we checking for? We're checking for, is it not nil? Assert not nil. Right? Data here should be not nil. That's what that function says. Everybody? So now go ahead and command U. Command U. Oh, you were not here this morning, sorry. Yeah, command U for the testing. Yes. Command U runs your test. At this point, all our tests should have passed. Yes. The light. Okay. Come closer. We have space here. Come right here. Oh, we have tomorrow. We might have new seating, not today. Was everybody able to get the test to pass? Yes. No. Maybe. Fatal error means your file name might be wrong. What does the fatal error say? The test don't lie, guys. The test don't lie. I think it's still on break.
I got it. I have 120 more likes than you.
Guys, we have to call. We have to pass in the file name and extension. We pass in empty strings.
Okay, so you're not.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Those turkeys. Hey, listen, let me go. Oh, that's not so you gotta just no, I'm not interested.
It's a 1,000-mile code and you're missing one there. I got one stuff now.
The green ones are you don't even see it. The breaks. No more breaks. No more Thanksgiving breaks. Wow, winter wonderland. How are we doing? How are we doing in the front?
Yeah,
Okay.
I had it as a certain nail instead of a certain nail.
You see, test room development. Very good. How are we doing? We good? Okay, let's move to the next test. What's the next test? Now we have data. Let's take that data and start making our models. So that's the next test. That's what the next test is going to be about. Let me try to get multiple screens happening here. Every little thing that we do, we write a test for it. Yeah? You don't like that, huh? Okay, guys, let's take a break here. A mini suggestion right there is iOS developers. For everything that we do, we have to write a test for it. And then what happens is eventually there's no more tests. Eventually there's no more tests on the code base. Because after a while, developers are like, it just takes too long to write tests. Why am I writing tests? What's the point of writing tests? The users don't see the test. All those things. No, but it's true. Because when you said that everything I do, I have to write a test for it. Right?
But that's what I'm saying, is there not like a more, oh, for these things, this is not I don't know what, but.
It depends on where you want to be, right? Do you want to be the place where you know every function you have has a test on it? Meaning like when you have your car, do you go through all the checkpoints at the mechanic? Or you're like, brakes, whatever, that's fine. I mean, I've done that, right? Like a judgment call, like, do I really need AC right now? Whatever, right? Those kind of things, like, right? It depends on you and the team, right? But at the end of the day, the more tests you write, the better, because those bugs that you fix, they're not coming back, right? We tested that, we read our file, we tested that it works. We could move on to the next thing. Now I could write a next function using my parsed JSON data because it was tested already. See what I'm saying? So again, that's developers, iOS developers there. All those things. Again, it depends on the company, man. Like some companies, they really just want to push features out there. They don't care about testing. Some companies are heavy on testing. But as a developer coming from us here, like try to go out with as much testing knowledge as you know. Like know how to talk about exit tests, know how to add simple tests to your code base, know how to test when you have a bug, as opposed to like fixing the bug, pushing it out, the bug comes back, which is called regression, and not having a test there. Like I tested it, I wrote a function to test it, I know it's working, now I could ship it, right? As opposed to like, I know it worked yesterday, but it's not working for you, right? There's no like test to back that up. Cool? That function only makes sure that there's data. That's it. That I'm able to read, well not only, I'm able to read from the file and get me back data. Right? It's not 0 bytes. It's more bytes than 0.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that.
Yes, it doesn't necessarily mean that the data is valid.
Okay.
That's the next
And
test.
that it has all the data that you may want.
Exactly. The next one is going to be where we take that data and we try to make a Swift model with it.
Okay.
Yes.
Why do you, like, between a range and act, why do you make,
Oh, earlier this morning, well, we should have one arrange here, by the way. Let's take that out. We didn't use that here. Earlier this morning, we said we are, well, not arrange, but there's a testing paradigm, right, in the development community where people test. Web developers, iOS developers, they have like a testing paradigm, a testing structure they use. It's similar to what we're doing right now. We arrange our constants, our variables, whatever we have. Then we say the performance, what the verb we're performing, the act of that test, like what function we call in, goes into the act block, right? And then the last part of the test is what we asserting. What condition are we testing for? In that particular one, that the data is not nil, right? Earlier this morning we saw assert not assert equal, like is one object equal to an next object? And I also said that you'll see a range, but you'll also see given. You also see given, like given those variables or those constants, right? When this action happens, then this is the outcome, right?
so putting the strings directly in just like that practice, or
Putting the strings directly in. You mean like this?
like just putting random users as a string?
No, you wanna the constants are better. That way you could change it later, as opposed to like hard coding a value in there. You cannot play that value later, right? Get in the habit of creating like a constant or whatever to capture that. Okay, cool. Let's keep going here. Okay, read data. We have that. I really probably want to change that name. I think I want to refactor that name, parse JSON data, because that's a bit overwhelming. Reading in data from bundle. Guys, I want to refactor the name of this. Sorry. I want to refactor the name. Everybody, I want to refactor the name of my parse JSON data here for the people still here. Get real JSON. Wow. I didn't say that, Amini. I don't know.
I said I wish it stick, it's snow. I don't know what you heard now. Like,
I don't know. There's something that rhymes closely with that one. Let's call it get raw JSON data. Or read. Read raw JSON data. Let's name it that. Okay? The test still holds because if you refactor correctly, the test has the same name. So we called it read raw JSON data. Okay? This is fine. Our test should reflect the same name here. Read raw JSON data. And let's move on to the next test. Function. Come on, expert. You should see the stuff. It's right there in front of you. The next one will say parse JSON data. Yes, I need the test. Thank you. Right before this guy will say test.
So parsing, we didn't have to value that because this was all over the place.
Only two places. It was used on line 28 and it was used in the bundle extension. So test parse JSON data to users array. Okay. That's a bit better. Because what we want to do here, we want to take the data and we want to create a users array. So we don't have a lot of things. We're missing a lot of things here. Let's arrange our code. So we have arrange here, we have act here, and we have assert. File name will be the same. This works. This is where we could do like a setup if we wanted to, because we're using the same setup code. Random users. And here we have extension JSON. And our data is the same. Data equal to bundle dot read JSON, passing the file name, passing extension. Okay. Great. Next, we want to say let users equal to random, doesn't exist, we need to create it, random user data dot get users. This is going to be called, this is our function. Get users from, bless you, from data. So a couple of things doesn't exist. We do not have a random user data struct. We need to create it. And we need to create a get users function that takes in some data object, which is our data object here. Okay. Let's go ahead and create a random user data struct. So file, new file. It's a Swift file. I'll go back. Don't kill the messenger. This is test-driven development. I'm giving you...
So, all right, so you'll give it a name even before it happens?
Yes.
Is there...
That's test-driven development. We're getting exposed
But how do
to...
you test what you don't have? It's more just for an error.
In the first lecture, we spoke about test-driven development, where we write the... Tiffany. We spoke about test-driven development, where we write the test first. When it fails or there's a compiler error, we go fix it.
Okay, this is what you meant. But how would we know? So we just have to, this for us to use this technique, we have to already know everything in order for you to do tests and then...
Well, know how you want to call, know what you want to call your struct. We want to call our struct random user data.
No, not just that, but to test what you're looking for. And
Well, you should know what you're looking for, right? You don't just write code and don't know where you're going.
no, it's not that, but it's different when you're like, okay, I know what I'm looking for, but all right, I have my main storyboard in front of me, and I have my task. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do this. So you start building, and then like maybe test after. But when you start testing, like, okay, this should work and this should work, you don't even know what we used to put into the app first.
Well, first of all, you know you need data,
Mm-hmm.
right? Next, you know you need to have a struct
To capture the data.
to have your codable objects conform, well, to have your objects conform to codable.
To the data.
This is going to be our random user data, correct? You know that. You know you have to create a file called random user data,
Yeah.
right? So as far as like, you've been approaching coding where you type, expect something to happen, it doesn't work, you type again, correct? Right? But here you're forced to think where you're going, right? Where am I headed? I need to get data, right? Here I need some function that gets me users. I need that. That's where I'm headed. That's my template. It doesn't exist yet, but that's where I'm headed. That's what test-driven development makes you do. It forces you to think ahead. What's the next step? What do I need? Right? Like when I'm doing a race, for example, I know how I feel at mile 22. What am I going to do at mile 22? Right? Am I going to give up? No. We know the end goal. The end goal here, we need to get users. We need to get users from the data we have. We have the data already. Agreed? The only thing we don't have right now is we don't have random user data. The struct, we don't have it. It doesn't exist. Get users function doesn't exist either, but they will exist. This is where we headed. So we'll stop now. We'll go create it, come back and test it.
Why force the recommendation?
More on that later. Okay? Because here we have data, we know we have data, we could force and wrap it. That's fine. Because we tested it before. The test. All right, let's keep going here. So random user, we said we're creating a new file, right? Create a new file, Swift file. It's called random user data, right? Random user data. Create random user data. Create our struct. It's called random user data. It's a struct. What's that? Yes, we're not saving anything in the test. Everything is in the random user app. Aaron is going to drive right now. No, he's not. No, he's not. It's not sticking. Yes, we could have a sleepover code all night. All right, let's continue. What do we need here? We need to conform to Codable, right? That we know. That's a given, yes? Okay, so let's do that. We need a function. I just create an extension for that function. So we need a function. What's the function called? Get something. That's fine. Get user data, right? Was that it? Get users, what does it take? From data. Okay. Okay. So here in our get users, we could go ahead, use the data we have. Well, wait. What am I doing here? We could create a variable here, call it users.
How do we get in contact with Xcode?
Contact with Xcode, you call Tim.
Get in contact with Xcode, I think I don't know something.
You call Tim. All right. Okay, so we have an empty array of user. Tiffany's like, where's that user? And then we return users. Trust me, when you guys finish with this, you're gonna write code without even know, like just go places. Exactly. We'll create a struct called user, which also conforms to Codable, like that. Where is all that stuff? It builds. At this point, we should stop. We should stop at this point because right now we wrote enough code for the test. We wrote enough code right now for the test. The what? The what?
All the secrets of the test are in this code.
Yeah,
Reverse engineering.
exactly. We want to expose you guys to test-driven development so you know what it is. But that doesn't say you have to abide by everything here going forward. But get in the habit of at least try it for a week or whatever it is on the labs we ask you for and see how well it helps, right? But know that you experimented with it and know what it is. Okay, how are we doing? We have two structs. One is random user data, one is user. We have an extension on our random users data. We have a type method called get users. It returns an array of users. Amini, how you doing? It's a different way of thinking. Okay. Okay. You know we have to do more code, right? We're not done, right?
Okay, so this is not what we're going to be testing, right?
Well, we are testing this, and what's the outcome going to be?
It should be,
Well, we're going to test. How are we doing? Can we continue?
How come my user is staying purple until it turns green? Is that always not working?
Can we continue? Okay. Let's go back to our test here. How are we doing with time? Okay. Let's build here. Let's make sure that function is the same name that I wrote. Get users. We have data. What's that data here? We don't need to force and wrap this. Take this out. The force and wrap we did there, we don't need that. Sorry. Okay, so that works. What's the, if we option click on users, what's user? Look, it's a user array. That's good. How should we test it? What should we test for? What should we be testing for? That is not nil is one thing. But also, if we look at our JSON data, it's greater than 0, right? Is that valid? Like we should have more users than 0, than the number 0. So that's a good test. So I could XCT assert greater than 0. I could XCT assert where it's greater than.
What data for users?
Yes. Too many.
How many? Again, we're not looking for how many in there specifically.
Exactly. So greater than, so I'll say XCT assert greater than, right? My expected should be greater than, or users that count should be greater than 0. So here I could say users that count should be greater than 0. And here I'll say users should be greater than 0. Or users that count. Users that count. Okay. So at this point, we run our test. And now we just keep coding until that test passes. So we run the test, Command U. Right? It failed, right? What's my failure say? Right? 0 should be greater than 0. We have no, well, we have data, but we don't have users yet. If you see the users array, what's the count? It's empty, right? So it's 0.
that's what I was saying. That's what I was so confused. And you were like, yeah, let's go. You were making me sad about it.
You know we have more code to write in there, right?
That's what you said.
But now our test failed, so we need to go back to the production code to keep writing code until the test passes. Okay? So now our job is to make that test pass. Okay? So let's make that test pass. First person to make the test pass could go home. I don't know, I'm taking a risk here. All right. What are we looking for? Oh, the basics we need? Let's see the JSON. Let me piggyback on my JSON here. Okay, for the user, we'll take gender. Let's look at the JSON. For the user, we'll take in basic minimums for now. Again, the bare minimum to make your test pass. Everybody, listen to that. That's very important. I want to take the bare minimum to make the test pass. Okay? The bare minimum here we'll take for the user. We'll take in the gender and we'll take in the name for now. Okay, everybody? We'll take in the gender and the name. Okay? Gender and name. So for my user model, I'll say let gender. What type is gender? String. What else we have? Name, right? Name is what type? Name? Dictionary. You're in the dictionary. Yeah, it is a dictionary. It is a dictionary. But you're not going to give me a Swift dictionary, right?
No, it's a struct.
It's a struct. Okay. We all see that? And now you ask, where's that name from? I don't know. We're going to create it. Name is quotable. I want to keep in mind, guys, I want to pause here. I want to pause here for a second. Let's all upgrade our quotable to decodable. I want us to all know that what we're doing right now is decoding objects. Quotable is an alias that encapsulates both decodable and encodable. Encodable is when you're sending up data to the network. Right? We open up parsing JSON with that. Everybody remember? We said quotable is an alias that wraps the encodable and decodable protocols. Do we remember? Okay. So for now, let's just say decodable here. I'll say decodable here. I'll say decodable here. So we know the differences. All right. Quotable is a package that does both of them together. Decodable is only what we need right now. Okay? All right. Quotable has encodable and decodable. Exactly. Exactly. If you look at the type, well, I don't have the type here, but if you go to the internet and do quotable, Swift, the internet is, and we go here, come on, webs. Here, you see it's a type alias. Do we all see that? Everybody in the back? It's a type alias quotable, right? It encapsulates both decodable and quotable together. So it packages them together. When you want to send information to the web. I create a new Instagram post. I want to post it. That's encoding my data to JSON and pushing it to Instagram. Decodable is getting data back. I want to see all my feeds, all the snow photos. Cool. All right, so where were we? Decodable, name, username, name. What does name have? What does name have? Name has a title, right? Title is string, right? What does it have? First is a string, and last is a string. We're going to see a lot of things today. Who has seen coding keys? Okay, so we all see coding keys. What does coding keys do, Tiffany?
Oh, coding keys gives you access to the type of using for it and the data.
Coding keys allows you to change the name of that JSON property. The JSON property for line 23 is what? It's last, right? That's the JSON property. That's the key. I'm able to change the key. I'm able to change the key from my JSON to whatever name I want.
Whatever name you want.
Yes. Like last name. Like Andy says, I could change it to last name. Coding keys. Coding keys. So on Codable, there's a private enum called coding keys. It allows you to change the names there.
Okay.
Right?
I do have one question, right? So
But this is very important. You got that, right? That answer there? It allows you to change the keys, right?
Yeah. I was, the last time we did this for the homework, right? For the random users one.
That is the random users one.
Right. It was allowing me to take the first and the last, but it wasn't giving me access to the title.
Why? Was it optional? It could be optional.
No, but it was giving me the first and the, I mean, like, it was done the same way. The same way that I was going for first or for last was the same way that I was trying to do.
Did it give you an error or anything?
I mean, like, when I was typing it up and I put in that title, like,
Okay, I got you. It should because it's a name. If you say username that, it should give you access to it. Yeah, we'll see as we get there. Okay, so here we have title first last, right? And I said we could use our enum here. It's called coding keys. It has a raw value of string. Coding key. And here we could list the cases. So you need to list all the cases that you have. In our case, we have title, we have first, and we have last, right? And we'll mark this private. Okay, so what are we doing here? We have 3 properties on name. In our coding keys, you should also have 3 properties. If I leave one of those properties out, like that, and I build, I get an error. Does not conform to protocol decodable. That's not really giving me enough information, right? But you'll come to those use cases a lot. Make sure that if you are overriding coding keys here, that you do have the cases match with the amount of properties you have. Julia? If I have 3 properties, I have 3 cases. I'm going to change the name of first to first name. So instead of saying first here, I'll say first name. And in order to do that, because I have a string as a raw value, I pass in my raw value here, which needs to be the same JSON key. It needs to match the same JSON key here. It needs to be first. And for last name, I'll pass in last name. I'm overriding the names. And here, this is going to be last name. And this is going to be first name. It becomes more evident when you have snake case. Like for example, if your JSON data looks like this, right? Title 1, that's not Swifty, right? That's not Swifty at all. So you want to change that name to something more Swifty. I wanted to show us coding keys earlier. I haven't gotten the snake case scenario yet. I think one of your projects had it, right? Maybe the colors. One of them had snake casing. This is snake casing where you have an underscore. Have you guys seen that across, right? So you don't want to submit that to an employer, for example, because it's not Swifty. Swifty does not tell you to use snake cases at all. What does it say use? Camel cases. Everybody with me? So you come across some JSON where it's like snake case like that, use coding keys to override it and change the name. Everybody with me? So this is your answer there, like a better answer to make it more Swifty, to make your property names more Swifty. You want to use coding keys to override the name that you get back from JSON. Okay, everybody?
For coding keys, is it a 2 raw value type? Is that what that's implying?
This is a raw value type, and this is part of decodable. It's required if you override it, the coding keys. Okay, but the raw value string here is for the keys itself. And make sure that key needs to be the same key as the JSON key. One other thing, if you're not changing, any name you're not changing, like in my case, I'm not changing title, I could just say case title. I don't have to say case title equal to title, like that. I don't have to do that, that's not required. Everybody with me? This is not required, okay? No, I was showing you, a question was asked, what's the real relevance of changing the names? And I showed a place where we have snake case in JSON. We really want to change that. The minute you see snake cases, stop what you're doing, stop the horses, coding keys on everything. Because you don't submit that code to an employer, okay? Yes?
What if you want to change one name but it has like 20 properties?
Do you need all the 20 properties?
No, but you said you have to use.
No. I'm saying up to you. Like in our case here, we don't want to change title, so we still have to pass title.
That's what I'm saying. Now we have to pass 20 things.
Would you need 20 properties on something? I don't think so.
Oh, would be like realistically.
Yeah, I think there's something else happening there. Cool. But yes, if you need 20 things and you need to change only one, you pass only one. But you have to pass in all the rest as cases. Yes, sir. What if the structure has, like, oh, you mean, that's fine, that's valid. Like, you mean like a bowl? Oh, there's no N in here.
Because in the enum, when you raw values, like what if they had H that's, I don't know why you have H in it, but sure.
No, remember the key. The key is always strings in JSON. Those are keys here. Those are keys. Look.
Oh, I see.
Those are keys here. Those are keys. We don't care about the values. Cool? All right. So Cameron clarification question was, what about the values? We don't care about the values. We only care about the keys here. Everybody with me? In our JSON, the key is gender. If you want to change gender, that's fine. Like DOB, if you want to change DOB, whatever, right? We care about the keys, not the values. So if you want to change the key names, you use coding keys. Everybody with me? Okay, so I can see it better. We saw coding keys today. And really and truly, where you really want to use them is when you see snake cases. As I said earlier, if you see, this is snake case, snake case and example, like if you see first name like this, right? Don't submit that, please. Change name to first name using coding keys. Right? Those are the big ones you really want to change. Or if you come across some crazy API where it gives you like 157 whatever for a key, just like change that to a better name. Yes? When you're changing the name, yes, in our case here, take line number 29, for example. The one we're changing from is in the string quotes. That's the raw value. The one we're changing to is first name. And this needs to be consistent. You need to update it here as well. Right? That's what we actually going to be using. Okay? If you come into a scenario where you have an error, most likely it's because you kept first like this. And right now it doesn't know what first is. So it will throw you an error saying, does not conform to protocol decodable. Cool? So make sure that your cases is the ones you're using. Very good. All right. Very good. So let's keep going here. So our users is good. We have a gender, we have a name. That's enough for us to keep going. What does this guy have? He has results, right? So our random user data has results. Remember, spell results the same as the key, unless you want to change the key. And it's an array of users. That's the one we choose. Yes. Yes. Because we're going to override that one. And we say now we're using this one. Oh. This first is okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, yes. Because of the yes. That's what we should do. Cool. So remember again, what we're changing from is in the quotes, in the string literal. What we're changing to is now first name, for example, second name. So no longer can we use first here. We have to use first name. Everybody with me? Everybody with me? Okay, cool. All right, so our random user is good. This is good. Now let's go to actually parsing our JSON. Quickly, we know what we need here. We need a do catch. Why? Because we're about to try some method. What method are we trying? We say results, not results. I'll call it random. Let random user data equal to JSON decoder dot decode. The type we decode in is random user data. What's the root level of our JSON? Is it a dictionary or array? It's a dictionary, right? Do we agree, Tiffany? Don't guess. Look at the JSON data. No guessing, no guessing. What is the root level? What is number one say? Mr. Jahid, is it an array or a dictionary? It's a dictionary, right? Oscar? Line number 1, is it a dictionary or array? Dictionary, right? So we all agree, correct? If it was a square bracket, the root level would be an array. Here, the root level is a dictionary. So that affects how we change it in our...
So how is it that the root level, like, I get it, the root level is dictionary, but like, why is it that all of the data is inside of an array result?
Well, the data we after is an array.
Oh, because it has info in it. So what is info? Info is like other information.
Info.
Because results has all the info.
Which
you want,
info?
and the info has something else.
Where are you getting info from?
At the very bottom of
The JSON data?
results, yeah. That's what makes an array. I mean, that's what makes it a dictionary.
Info is a different thing. That gives you information about what's the result count, what page you're on, what version of the API it is.
Right, but that's inside of.
No, but we don't care about info.
No, we don't care about it. But
It's on the same structure as the, yes.
okay. But what makes it a dictionary? The fact that.
The first bracket you look for. Just look for the very first bracket in your JSON.
I don't understand that. I guess I just want to.
What makes it an array? Okay.
It's a dictionary because the key is result. And then to result, there's all.
Results is an array because we have a bracket of results.
Right.
Right? Square bracket, sorry.
Right.
Mhm.
The result is the key to get that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All the stuff. Very good. Cool. But at the bottom is for like pagination. We'll get into pagination. I want to talk about pagination here. I don't think we did last year. I want to talk about it because it's very important to be able to come out from one page to the next. Oh yeah, so let's go to code. Yulia is interested in code. Let's go back to our code. So here it affects what we write here. So this is a dictionary, right? If it was an array, Yulia, you'd have to wrap it in an array. Cool? So, okay, so we have our user, our random user data here. Remember to try here. And now we have our users. So users gets random user data that results. Look at that. Build it. Make sure you have no errors. In our catch block, we will, what do we do in our catch block? We're going to crash. Fatal error. This is developer. Anytime we do a fatal error, it's a developer error. It should really be called developer error. Let me submit a request to just change that name. Developer error. They'll be like, no, I want fatal error. No? You mean the Swift community? Swift.org? Okay, so here we want to crash, yeah, what we want to say? We want to say decoding error. Decoding error. Make sure to pass the error here, by the way, because you really want to know what went wrong. You want to know what went wrong. Now, what's next? What's next? What are we doing next? Anybody? What are we doing next? We're going to test it, right? We wrote our test. Our test is waiting for us. We wrote enough production code to go ahead and test our unit test here. So let's go to our test and run it. Or just run it here. You could do a simple command U here. Command U here, and let's see what we have. Command U. Hey, look at that. Succeeded. Voila.
What was the test that we did? Oh,
Our test worked. We could write more tests while we're here. Let's write the next test. Let's see. I could look at my JSON data. Please look at your data, not mine. This is not where we copy together. Let's see. My first name. Wow, look at that. I didn't even try. Okay, so I want to test that the user that first equals to Alex. On my platform, I want to test this. Everybody with me? Everybody with me? Whatever your first name is, test for your first name. So we'll write a test to see if the first name is Alex in my users array. Okay, everybody? Okay. So let's go and do that. So in my test code, I'll write a simple test here. Test first user name is Alex. And again, yours is different. What is yours, Matt? What is your first user's name?
I'll say just try that.
Your first user's name is Alex?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
What's yours? What's yours?
Martin.
Okay.
I thought it was really Alex. I didn't know you changed.
Find it.
I did not.
My first name is in Arabic.
That actually is what?
I did not change the data. I'm not that, wow. Oh man, guys, that's where you put me?
No,
Okay.
no. I did see Alex up there.
Yeah,
We're just people.
yeah. Okay, let's go. Arrange my code. What am I doing? I'm saying let file name. I'm reading from the same file. Random. So keep in mind that if your first username is different, make it different. Don't use my name. It's not going to work. Reading from JSON. Our data is the same. Again, we could do that in startup, but that's fine. We're reading from file name, extension. Okay, cool. What do we want to do now? We have users as well. We have all that data. It's tested. Okay, now let's act. What do we want to do? No, we can't. That's what I'm saying. We can't. We can't. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want to say let first user. We can a mini. We could create like a function in here itself. We could create in setup. I could have a setup code doing it. Okay, so I want to get first user. How do I get first user? I say users dot first. Users dot first, right? I'll bang it here. Just know that I'm banging it because I know there's a user. And then what I want to test is xct assert equal this first user equal to, I'm not going to use a quotation here. I'll put some expected user name or expected first name equal to Alex. And then here I'll say expected first user to be expected name. Assert, sorry, thank you. Why do I have to ask? Thank you, Minnie. Look like you came back from your break, huh? Okay. So first user, this is good. Argument, what do you? User does not conform to, what's happening? Does not conform to type equatable. Oh, first user dot name, sorry. First user dot name, thank you. First user dot first. First user dot name dot all that stuff. First user dot name dot first name. So Tiffany, you say you didn't have access to title like this?
Yeah, I wasn't getting that.
You could show us what
First
the
name was giving me first, was giving me last, was giving me
you could show us what it looks like, but you should have had access to it. So here we could say first user dot name dot first name should be equal to expected name. Great. When it's all said and done, we could run our test and validate that's true. Go back to data. Sure. Hey, when the thing just works, it's like, did it really work? Go back to where? Random user. What part? The in for coding keys? I wanted to show one more thing, but we'll continue tomorrow because this is just, I want to stop here because this is enough. It's a good day. Tomorrow, I want to show us what happens when postcode breaks. Because right now, if we try to use postcode, it's not going to work on location. So tomorrow, we'll see what that looks like. We'll override the init on a decoder object in order to fix that, to make it work. Can I go back to the test? Was that Christian? How are you guys doing? Were you able to run your test? Our data, does that test run, Mr.? You see that Mr. is asking the question here. I was not able to get data. We have a test for that, right? It's called test reading data from random users file. A lot of names. Christian, does yours work?
I'm still at the data,
Random user, well, you can't get to random user data unless you have data.
but not in this file.
This one. If your test worked earlier, it should still work here. As a matter of fact, your test does pass before it gets here. And to let you know, the test runs alphabetically, by the way. Xcode runs tests alphabetically, just for you to know. And yes,
So, my
your struct. One second, let's go back. Your main struct, this guy. The name. Yeah, but we just updated that. We said, let's get in the habit of just conforming to decodable right now so we know the differences. Well, it's still going to work. There's a different error somewhere. I'll come to your computer to see what's going on. Anybody else? Everybody else good? We'll come around and we'll see your machines, but I'll end the lecture here. Go back to test suite here, okay? Just to review the test we wrote, because this is just a test-based app. The first test we wrote was to verify that we could read from the bundle, right? So we were able to read from the bundle, we got back data. We confirmed that test works, it's still green. Everybody with me, right? Second test we did, with data, can I get back users? We were able to get back users because our test, we have an assert here on users. We say the users count should be greater than 0. It passes because we use test-driven development to make all the parts of our production code work. And the last test we did, with my particular JSON, the first username is Alex. I said, hey, if I run this test, does the first user that gets created, is it Alex? At this point, we have enough code to say, yes, our code works. We could go to our UI, set up our UI, everything works. So with JSON, it's good practice to get in the habit of testing your data before you go to UI, right? Test the data. Can I get data, right? Do I get valid data back? So we'll stop here. We'll continue tomorrow. We'll talk about postcode because postcode could be an integer or it could be a string. How do you work with a data type encodable with heterogeneous type? It could be an int or a string. How can you work with that? So tomorrow we'll take a look at that. But for today, we'll stop here.